12 Stoic principles to help you live fully every day. 1. The North Star of self-improvement. Have you ever thought about what it really means to be on a journey of self-improvement? Now imagine this. What if every setback you've ever faced, every challenge that's knocked you down, was actually preparing you for something greater? I know, it sounds like one of those inspirational quotes that pop up on your social feed and disappear just as fast. But what if I told you it's not just a feel-good line? What if this idea is rooted in one of the oldest, most enduring philosophies known to humankind? Welcome to the world of Stoicism. This isn't just about enduring tough times or pushing through discomfort. It's about embracing those very things, yes, embracing them as essential pieces of the path toward your best self. The Stoics didn't just survive life's storms. They saw those storms as the very winds that could lift their sails. And today, we're diving deep into this ancient wisdom to see how it can light our way through modern chaos. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed by personal struggles, stuck in a professional rut, or just trying to make sense of everyday life, Stoic teachings give us something rare, a roadmap not just to cope, but to thrive. Think about your own life. Maybe you felt like you're constantly fighting an uphill battle against expectations, doubt, failure, or even your own inner voice. Maybe you're searching for peace but finding yourself in the middle of noise. Well, you're in the right place. Because we're going to explore how Stoicism isn't some dry philosophy from a forgotten era. It's a living, breathing guide that helps us find purpose, strength, and clarity. Let's start with something simple yet incredibly powerful, your North Star. In life, we all need something to steer by. For the Stoics, that guiding star was virtue, living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. They weren't interested in fame, fortune, or comfort. They were after something far more enduring, character. And if that sounds abstract, don't worry, we're going to break it all down in a way that's relatable and real. Let's begin by asking one of the most important questions you'll ever ask yourself. Why not? Seriously, ask it right now. Why not go after what you really want? Why not become the version of yourself you admire? Why not take the first step, even if it's scary or uncertain? See, a lot of us live inside invisible fences built by fear, self-doubt, or the pressure to play it safe. We shrink our dreams. We silence our instincts. We settle. And the Stoics? They would have challenged us to wake up. To them, that why not isn't just motivational fluff, it's a call to action. It's a philosophical hammer meant to break down the walls of comfort and complacency. Stoicism wasn't about sitting back and hoping things would change. It was about taking ownership of your life. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Roman emperors and Stoic thinkers, didn't have time for excuses. He believed that each day was an opportunity to act in accordance with your best self. And that meant asking tough questions and making brave choices, not someday but today. So, the next time you're standing at a crossroads, debating whether to take a risk, speak up, start something new, or let go of something old, pause and ask yourself, why not? And then listen closely, because that answer might just change everything. Now, I know this all sounds inspiring, but here's where it gets even more real. When you ask yourself, why not? You're not just facing outer obstacles. You're confronting the inner ones too, the voices that whisper you're not good enough, the fear that paralyzes, the comfort of staying small. That's the battleground where transformation really happens. And that's where the Stoic concept of prokopton comes in. It's a word that means someone who is making progress. Not someone who's perfect. Not someone who has it all figured out. Just someone who's showing up, doing the work, and moving forward, even when it's slow, messy, or painful. That's what this is all about. Progress over perfection. Action over anxiety. Principle over popularity. When you start living like that, choosing growth over comfort, you begin to see changes. Not overnight, and not always in ways the world immediately notices. But inside you start building something solid, something unshakable. Let me give you an example. Think of a time in your life when you made a hard decision, not because it was easy or popular, but because it felt right. Maybe you left a toxic job. Maybe you had a difficult conversation you'd been avoiding. Maybe you just decided to stop pretending and finally be honest with yourself. That was you stepping into your power. That was you walking the Stoic path, even if you didn't know it at the time. Because Stoicism isn't just a philosophy. It's a practice, a lifestyle, a mindset. And it starts with one core idea. You always have a choice. You may not control the storm, but you absolutely control how you sail through it. And when you choose to improve every day in small, consistent ways, you align yourself with the core of Stoic virtue, self-mastery. You're no longer waiting for life to give you permission. You're not waiting for the stars to align. You're creating your own momentum. That's power. That's freedom. And just so we're clear, being obsessed with improving doesn't mean becoming a perfectionist or beating yourself up for not being there yet. It means being devoted, not desperate. Patient, not passive. Hungry for growth, not hungry for praise. Because the goal isn't to impress the world. It's to impress your soul. So as we go deeper into this journey together, I want you to remember one thing. This path of self-improvement is yours. And it's sacred. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to compare it. You just need to walk it, step by step, breath by breath, with purpose and persistence. And I'll be right here with you, every step of the way. 2. The power of giving it all you've got. So, let's say you've made the decision. You've said, yes, I want to grow. I want to live with more purpose. I want to follow this Stoic path. Great. That's step 1. But here's the real question. Are you giving it all you've got? I'm not talking about hustling 24/7 until you burn out. I'm not talking about being busy for the sake of being busy. I'm talking about committing, really committing, to your values, your goals, your life. You see, the Stoics were all in. When they believed in something, they didn't dip a toe in to test the waters. They dove in headfirst. Not recklessly, but wholeheartedly. They believed that the worth of an action isn't found in applause or rewards, but in the intention and energy you pour into it. That kind of dedication? It's rare and powerful. Take Marcus Aurelius again. Here was a man who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, yet he spent his nights journaling about patience, discipline, compassion, and staying true to himself. But because he understood that his title didn't matter nearly as much as his character. He wanted to live, really live, in alignment with his highest ideals. So what does giving it all you've got look like for you? Maybe it means getting up early to write that book you've been dreaming about. Maybe it means being fully present with your family instead of distracted by your phone. Maybe it means training your body, calming your mind, or facing a fear that's been holding you hostage for years. Whatever it is, it starts with a decision to engage. To show up, not halfway, not when it's convenient, but fully. And that means bringing sincerity and integrity to everything you do, especially the little things. Because how you do the small things, that's often how you do everything. Are you bringing your best to your work, even when no one's watching? Are you honoring your commitments, even when they don't bring recognition? Are you pushing through discomfort, or are you retreating into the cozy shell of maybe later? These are the kinds of questions the Stoics asked themselves every day. And not because they were obsessed with perfection. Quite the opposite, actually. They were obsessed with virtue, with becoming better human beings, with living in harmony with nature, reason, and truth. Now, here's a big misconception people often have, that giving it your all means being intense all the time. Like you need to be in beast mode, grinding and sweating 24 hours a day. That's not Stoicism. Stoicism isn't about constant pressure. It's about constant presence. It's not about forcing life to happen. It's about flowing with life, while showing up with strength, clarity, and courage. That means there are moments to rest, to reflect, to breathe. But in all those moments, there's intentionality. There's awareness. There's care. You can give your all to meditation. You can give your all to a slow walk through nature. You can give your all to a quiet conversation with a friend, or even to 5 minutes of journaling in the morning. What matters is that you're engaged, that your spirit is behind your action. And when adversity strikes, and it always will, that's when this mindset really pays off. Because if you've been living fully, if you've been training your soul like a warrior, then when the storm hits, you won't crumble. You'll stand. Not because you're invincible, but because you've been preparing. Because you've built your strength the Stoic way, slowly, daily, internally. And that strength? That's what separates people who are truly alive from those who are just surviving. So how do you start this process? Step 1. Clarify what really matters to you. Strip away the noise. What are your core values? What are your biggest goals? What kind of person do you want to be when no one's looking? Write them down. Speak them out loud. Make them real. Step 2. Pour yourself into them. Not for applause. Not for likes or followers. But because they matter to you. Because you want to live without regret. Because you want to reach the end of your life knowing that you didn't hold back. And step 3. Do it every day. No 0 days. Even if it's just one small thing, do something that moves you forward. That reminds you of who you are and who you're becoming. This is what the Stoics understood so well. That life isn't about a perfect moment or a grand finale. It's about 1,000 tiny choices. 1,000 little acts of courage. 1,000 daily votes for the kind of person you choose to be. And if you're waiting for the perfect time to begin, stop. That moment doesn't exist. The perfect time is now. Because life isn't something to wait for. It's something to meet head-on. And you've got everything you need already inside of you. So today, ask yourself, am I showing up fully? Am I living aligned with my values? Am I giving this life, my one and only life, all I've got? If the answer is no, that's okay. You get to choose again. Every sunrise is a reset. Every breath is a chance to recommit. You don't need permission. You don't need a guarantee. You just need to begin. Because the truth is, no one ever regrets giving their all to something they believe in. But they do regret holding back. They do regret living halfway. Don't be that person. Be the one who lives on purpose. Who burns with intention. Who builds a life not just of success, but of significance. That's the Stoic path. And if you walk it, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching, you'll discover something incredible. That the life you were chasing was within you all along. You just had to show up and live it. So let's do this. Together. Let's rise every day, not just to exist, but to evolve. Not just to dream, but to do. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Give it everything. Every moment. Every breath. Because this is your story. And it's worth writing well. 3. Staying on your path, even when it's hard. We live in a world that's always pulling us in different directions. Notifications, deadlines, opinions, distractions, they're everywhere. Some days it feels like there's no room to breathe, let alone focus. And in the middle of all that noise, it's easy to lose track of something incredibly important. Your path. Your personal path. Your direction. Your purpose. The Stoics knew how crucial it was to stay aligned with your path, especially when the world tries to pull you off course. They weren't just philosophers sitting around thinking, they were doers, leaders, fighters, thinkers in the trenches of real life. And they understood that staying true to your course wasn't just about achieving goals. It was a matter of integrity. So what does it mean to stay on your path? It starts with clarity. You need to know what you're really about, what you stand for, what your values are, what kind of life you're trying to build, not just for the world to see, but for your soul to thrive in. That clarity becomes your compass. Think of your life like a ship at sea. If you don't know where you're going, or if you keep changing your course every time the wind shifts, you'll drift. And drift long enough, and you'll end up somewhere you never intended to be. Somewhere that doesn't feel like you. But when you stay focused on your path, even when storms come, even when the waters get rough, you maintain a sense of direction. You make progress. You grow. Now, let's be honest, staying on your path isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's full of resistance and setbacks and people who just don't get it. That's okay. The Stoics expected that. They knew life would throw obstacles at them. They also knew that true strength wasn't found in avoiding those challenges. It was found in how you face them. So when you feel discouraged or distracted, don't see that as a sign that something's wrong. See it as proof that you're human. And then, gently bring yourself back. Back to your values. Back to your direction. Back to your purpose. One of the most powerful things you can do is write down your core values and revisit them regularly. Treat them like a contract with yourself. Not to be rigid or inflexible, but to be intentional. To make sure your choices, big and small, reflect the kind of life you want to live. Because here's the truth, life will test you. There will be moments when following your path feels inconvenient or even painful. Moments when quitting looks easier. Moments when compromise would get you quicker results. And in those moments, you have a choice: betray your values or deepen your commitment. The Stoics chose commitment, not out of pride or stubbornness, but because they understood something profound. Character is destiny. The person you become is shaped in the fire of those hard decisions. When you choose to stay on your path, especially when it's difficult, you're forging something unshakable within yourself. Now, this doesn't mean being inflexible. Stoicism isn't about clinging to plans no matter what. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances change. And yes, sometimes you'll need to adapt. But adaptability is not the same as abandoning your values. Being Stoic means staying true to your core, even if you change your tactics. For example, let's say your goal is to live with more compassion. That's your North Star. But maybe the way you express it changes depending on your environment or your relationships. That's okay. What matters is that the intention behind your actions stays aligned with your values. The best way to stay centered? Build self-awareness. And that starts with reflection. You don't need to sit in silence for hours every day. Just take a few minutes to ask, am I still on track? Are my actions reflecting my values? What adjustments do I need to make? This simple check-in can keep you grounded, even when life gets chaotic. Another tool the Stoics used? Discipline. Discipline doesn't mean being hard on yourself. It means practicing the art of choice, choosing what aligns with your path, even when something else feels more tempting. It's the muscle you build every time you say no to what distracts and yes to what truly matters. Because here's something most people won't tell you: freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from doing what's right, even when it's hard. And that kind of freedom? That's rare. That's powerful. That's Stoic. So, if you've been feeling off track, here's what I want you to know. It's okay to course correct. It's okay to pause, reflect, and recommit. The Stoic path isn't about never stumbling. It's about getting up again and again, with more wisdom, more clarity, and more strength than before. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest. Honest with yourself about where you're going. Honest about whether your actions align with that direction. Honest about when it's time to let go of distractions and return to what matters most. Because at the end of the day, this is your journey, your life, your legacy. And every choice you make, every small step, writes a line in the story of who you are becoming. So don't let the noise of the world drown out the voice within you. The voice that knows who you really are. The one that's calling you back to your path. Listen to it. Trust it. Follow it. Even if no one else understands. Even if it doesn't come with applause. Even if it's hard. Because staying on your path isn't just about where you end up. It's about who you become along the way. For letting go of outcomes and finding freedom. We're often told to set goals, chase dreams, and go after success with everything we've got. And sure, that can be empowering. But there's a hidden trap in this kind of thinking, and the Stoics saw it clearly thousands of years ago. The trap? Getting too attached to outcomes. Now, that might sound strange. Isn't the whole point of working hard to get results? Isn't it normal to care about the finish line? Yes, but only up to a point. You see, what the Stoics teach us is that there are two types of things in this world. The things we can control, and the things we can't. That's the foundation of their entire philosophy. And if you really think about it, it's incredibly freeing. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. You can control your decisions, your actions, your values. But the outcome? That's often influenced by factors far outside your reach. Timing, luck, other people's choices, unexpected events. And when you tie your worth or your happiness to something you don't actually control, that's where suffering begins. Let's break this down. Imagine you work hard on a project. You give it your all. You're proud of what you've done. But then, your boss doesn't like it. Or it doesn't perform well. Or nobody notices. If your self-worth is based on how others respond, you're going to feel crushed. But if your focus was on giving your best, regardless of what comes next, you've already won. Because you did your part. You lived up to your standard. You upheld your integrity. This is what it means to let go of outcomes. Not to stop caring, but to stop clinging. It means showing up fully, doing your work with intention and love, and then releasing your attachment to how it's received. Think of it like planting a seed. You can prepare the soil, water it daily, and give it sunlight. But you can't force it to grow overnight. You can't guarantee that it'll bloom exactly the way you imagined. And yet, you still care for it, because that's your job. That's what you can control. The Stoics believed this mindset wasn't just wise, it was essential. It's how you stay calm in the chaos. How you stay steady when things don't go according to plan. It's how you protect your peace. And the best part? It's something you can start practicing right now. Begin with this question: what's within my control in this situation? Get specific. If you're working on a goal, focus on your preparation, your discipline, your consistency. If you're having a hard conversation, focus on speaking with honesty, compassion, and clarity. And when anxiety about the result starts creeping in, gently let it go. Remind yourself, I've done what I can. The rest is not mine to carry. This shift might feel subtle, but it's incredibly powerful. It moves you from being reactive to being grounded. From trying to force life to flow your way, to flowing with life while staying anchored in your principles. Here's a real-world example. Let's say you apply for your dream job. You craft the perfect resume, prep for the interview, give it everything you've got. But you don't get the offer. The old mindset says, I failed. I wasn't good enough. The Stoic mindset says, I acted with diligence and integrity. That's success. The outcome doesn't change my worth. That's freedom. Now let's be clear, this doesn't mean you stop setting goals or striving for excellence. Stoicism isn't passive. It's not about giving up or floating through life without ambition. It's about redefining success. Not as a number on a scale or likes on a post or dollars in a bank account, but as the alignment between your values and your actions. Did you act with courage? Did you pursue excellence? Did you stay true to what matters? That's what counts. When you detach from the need for a specific result, you become more present. You enjoy the process more. You make room for growth, creativity, and learning. And ironically, you often perform better because you're not paralyzed by fear or obsessed with control. Letting go of outcomes also helps you build resilience. Because when things don't go your way, and they won't at times, you don't spiral. You don't crumble. You reflect, you adjust, and you keep going. Just like the Stoics did. Marcus Aurelius said it beautifully, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That strength isn't just about grit. It's about grace. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to release. When to push forward and when to surrender. It's about trusting the process, not blindly, but because you've done your part. So how do you live this way? Here are 3 practical steps. 1. Focus on your inputs. Every day ask yourself, what's within my power today? What can I give my full energy to, no matter the outcome? 2. Reframe disappointment. When something doesn't turn out the way you hoped, resist the urge to label it as failure. Instead ask, what did I learn? How did I grow? 3. Celebrate effort, not just results. Build a habit of acknowledging your consistency, your discipline, your follow-through. Give yourself credit for showing up. Remember, letting go isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's strength with open hands. It's saying, I will give my best to the world, and I will not be defined by how the world responds. That's the kind of freedom that can't be shaken by praise or blame, success or failure. It's the kind of freedom that comes from within. So the next time you feel the pressure to succeed, to be perfect, to prove yourself, pause. Take a breath. And remember, your worth isn't in the outcome. It's in the effort. 5. You get what you are, aligning your inner world with your outer life. Let's take a moment to turn inward. What's going on inside you? Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. What kind of energy are you carrying into the world each day? Because here's a powerful truth that the Stoics lived by. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. Let that sink in. This isn't about the law of attraction or some cosmic vending machine that gives you what you think about. This is deeper than that. This is about how your character, your values, your mindset, your actions, shapes your reality. It's about living from the inside out. If you walk around filled with fear, negativity, or bitterness, that's going to color how you see the world. It's going to shape the opportunities you pursue, the relationships you attract, and even the way people respond to you. But if you're grounded in virtues like resilience, kindness, and integrity, if that's who you are on the inside, then your life will start to reflect that. Not always in obvious ways. Not always immediately, but gradually, deeply, and unshakably. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, your inner world paints your outer world. So what kind of colors are you using? Are you cultivating the kind of character you want your life to reflect? Or are you waiting for your circumstances to improve before you decide to show up as your best self? The Stoics didn't wait. They took full ownership of their inner state, because they knew that was the only thing they truly controlled. They couldn't control whether people liked them, or whether life was fair, or whether tomorrow would bring ease or hardship. But they could control their response, their choices, their presence. And so can you. This starts with self-reflection. You can't change what you don't notice. So start by paying attention to how you think, how you react, and how you show up in different situations. Not with judgment, with honesty. Do you carry anger that erupts quickly when you're challenged? Do you avoid discomfort even when you know it would help you grow? Do you tell yourself stories of limitation even though you dream of a bigger life? These are signs, not of weakness, but of places where you can grow. Places where your outer reality is simply echoing your inner condition. And that's the beauty of it. Because when you shift who you are, when you start cultivating inner strength, patience, clarity, discipline, everything changes. Not overnight, but steadily. You begin to attract healthier relationships. You approach challenges with a calmer mind. You stop chasing validation because you know who you are. And that, my friend, is where freedom begins. You're no longer pulled in 1,000 directions. You're not trying to be someone else or prove something. You're simply living from your center, acting from your core, expressing who you truly are, without apology and without attachment. Now, let's talk about how to embody this principle in your daily life. Because this isn't just about theory. It's about practice. Start by choosing one virtue to focus on each week. Just one. Maybe it's courage, or patience, or humility. Every day that week, ask yourself, how can I embody this today? What's one decision I can make that reflects this value? What's one way I can live this more fully? And don't worry about being perfect. That's not the goal. The goal is alignment. The goal is to become the kind of person who, even on hard days, still lives by their principles. Even when nobody's watching. Especially when nobody's watching. Because that's when character is forged. The Stoics believed that adversity was a mirror. It reveals who we really are. So instead of running from challenges, they leaned into them. They saw each obstacle as a test, not of their luck, but of their virtue. And you can do the same. When something frustrates you, see it as an opportunity to practice patience. When someone criticizes you, see it as a chance to practice humility. When life throws you a curveball, see it as an invitation to grow stronger. This is how you transform. Not by wishing for a different life, but by becoming a different version of yourself, one that reflects what you truly value. And here's something else the Stoics knew: this work isn't easy. But it is worth it. Because over time, as you keep aligning your thoughts, words, and actions with your highest ideals, something magical happens. You begin to trust yourself. Deeply. Unshakably. You stop second-guessing every move. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop living on the surface. Instead, you become grounded, centered, and from that place, you start to shape a life that feels like yours. A life that reflects the strength, peace, and integrity you've built inside. So if you've been feeling stuck or scattered, if you've been waiting for life to hand you something before you show up fully, stop waiting. Start becoming. Start asking yourself every day, who do I want to be, regardless of what happens around me? What kind of person do I want my life to reflect? And then, be that person. In small ways at first, then bigger. And before you know it, you won't just be hoping for a better life, you'll be living one. Because you get what you are. Not just what you want. So build yourself into someone strong, someone steady, someone free. And watch how everything else begins to align. 6. The obstacle is the way. Let's talk about something we all know too well: obstacles. They show up uninvited. They interrupt our plans. They test our patience, our strength, and sometimes even our belief in ourselves. But what if I told you those obstacles weren't just roadblocks, but the actual path forward? That's not just a clever idea. It's a core principle of Stoicism. The phrase, "the obstacle is the way," comes directly from the writings of Marcus Aurelius. And at first, it might sound like a paradox. How can something that's in the way actually be the way? Well, here's how. We all encounter hardship. Maybe it's a failed relationship, a lost job, a health scare, a moment of deep self-doubt. Our natural response is to resist it, to wish it away, to complain or collapse. But the Stoics? they flipped the script. To them, the obstacle isn't what stops you, it's what trains you. Every difficulty is a chance to grow in a way that would have been impossible without it. Think about that. The thing you're struggling with right now, the very thing you wish would go away, that could be the very experience shaping you into a stronger, wiser, more capable version of yourself. The Stoics weren't naive. They didn't deny pain or pretend everything was sunshine and rainbows. They acknowledged suffering, but they also believed that how you respond to it is what defines your character. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." That's the truth, isn't it? Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you're tested. When life stretches you. When things break down and you have to build again. This time, better. But how do you actually live this idea? Let's break it down into something practical. The next time you face an obstacle, whether it's something small like a traffic jam or something bigger like a major life setback, pause. Just for a moment, and ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? That question changes everything. It shifts you from victim mode to student mode. From, why is this happening to me? To, what can I learn from this? That's where the transformation begins. Suddenly, the obstacle becomes a tool. A teacher. A mirror showing you what still needs strengthening inside you. And don't underestimate the power of that mindset shift. When you stop resisting reality and start working with it, you unlock levels of creativity, resilience, and courage that you didn't know were there. Maybe that job you didn't get is what pushes you to finally start your own business. Maybe that breakup is what forces you to confront the patterns you've been repeating. Maybe that failure is what humbles you, grounds you, and makes you more empathetic. You see, we tend to think success comes from avoiding problems. But the Stoics knew the opposite is true. Real success, deep, lasting, meaningful success, comes from engaging with problems fully and intentionally. It's in the struggle that your values are tested. It's in the challenge that your virtues are revealed. It's in the obstacle that your strength is forged. Now, let's get real. Sometimes obstacles don't come with obvious lessons. Sometimes they're just painful. That's okay. Stoicism doesn't ask you to enjoy suffering. It asks you to be willing to grow through it. That's a subtle but powerful distinction. You don't have to smile through heartbreak, but you can choose to emerge from it wiser and more grounded. You don't have to pretend disappointment doesn't sting, but you can use it to realign with what truly matters to you. You don't have to see failure as fun, but you can learn to see it as feedback. In this way, obstacles become part of your training, your personal evolution. And the more you practice this mindset, the more resilient you become. Not hardened or numb, but steady. You start to trust yourself. You start to realize, I've been through fire and I'm still here. That's the quiet power of Stoicism. It's not flashy. It's not loud. But it's deep. It's real. And it changes you from the inside out. So how do we integrate this into everyday life? Here are a few Stoic-inspired practices. 1. Reframe instantly. When something frustrating happens, immediately ask, how can I use this? Not, how do I escape this? But, how can I grow from this? 2. Journal the obstacle. Write about what's challenging you. Describe the situation. Then ask, what would a Stoic do? How would someone with wisdom, courage, and patience handle this? 3. Detach from emotion. Not ignore, detach. Notice your emotions, but don't let them control your next move. Use them as signals, not commands. Even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. Show up. Speak up. Try again. Move forward. That's the path. And always remember, progress doesn't mean you never fall. It means you keep getting up. It means you rise a little quicker each time. with a little more clarity, a little more strength. This mindset isn't just for personal development, it's for real life. Life will throw things at you. Loss, delay, rejection, pain. But if you can meet those moments with a calm mind and an open heart, if you can see obstacles not as enemies, but as allies, then you're already winning. Because the true victory is internal. It's not just about what you overcome, it's about who you become in the process. So, the next time you hit a wall, don't ask, how do I get around this? Ask, how do I move through this and grow in the process? Because that wall? That's your training ground. That's your classroom. That's your way forward. 7. Do what little you can. The power of small, consistent actions. In a world that glorifies big wins and grand gestures, it's easy to feel like your small efforts don't matter. We're constantly surrounded by success stories that seem larger than life. People launching million-dollar businesses, writing bestsellers, going viral overnight. And so, when we look at our own lives, our small routines, our quiet work, our private struggles, it can feel like we're not doing enough. But here's where Stoicism offers a radical and deeply empowering idea. Do what little you can. This isn't a call to shrink your dreams. It's a reminder that greatness is built in tiny increments. That excellence is found in the ordinary. That meaningful change starts with what's right in front of you. Right here, right now. The Stoics knew that we don't control everything. In fact, we control very little. But what we do control, our choices, our effort, our attention, has the power to shape our entire reality. They didn't wait for the perfect moment to act. They acted with what they had, where they were, however small the step. And that's what I want to invite you to do. Let go of the pressure to change your whole life overnight. Let go of the guilt for not being further along. Instead, ask yourself, what small, meaningful action can I take today? Because those small actions, they're not insignificant. They're everything. Think about it like this. A single drop of water doesn't seem like much. But over time, consistent drops can carve through rock. That's the power of consistency. That's the power of doing what little you can, again and again and again. Let's say you want to become more disciplined. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine in one day. Start by waking up 10 minutes earlier, or setting a timer to focus for 20 minutes, or laying out your clothes the night before. Do one small thing, then do it again tomorrow, and again the next day. That's how habits are formed. That's how character is built. Or maybe you're trying to improve your relationships. You don't need to fix everything at once. Start by really listening when someone speaks. Send a kind message. Apologize without defensiveness. These little gestures carry weight. Maybe you want to learn a new skill, or start a project, or build a business. Instead of waiting for the perfect time to commit, take the first imperfect step. Read a page. Write a paragraph. Make the call. Sketch the outline. Because here's the truth the Stoics understood so well. Action creates momentum. Even the smallest action has the power to shift your energy, to move you from stuck to moving, from thinking to becoming. And what happens when you repeat these small acts with intention and care? You build trust with yourself. You begin to see that you are capable of change. You're no longer relying on motivation or waiting for inspiration to strike. You're building discipline. You're creating a rhythm. You're showing up whether you feel like it or not. And that, my friend, is where transformation lives. It's not in the big, dramatic moments. It's in the quiet choices you make when no one's watching. It's in the small steps you take when no one's clapping. It's in the effort you give when the results are still far away. And yes, those moments matter. Because every small act is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. A vote for your values. A vote for your future. So how can you bring this Stoic principle into your daily life? Let's break it down into 3 practical steps. 1. Set tiny goals. If a task feels overwhelming, break it down. Don't say, "I'll write a book." Say, "I'll write for 10 minutes today." Don't say, "I'll get in shape." Say, "I'll stretch for 5 minutes." Tiny goals are achievable, and achievement builds momentum. 2. Track your consistency. Create a simple habit tracker or use a notebook. Each time you do your small task, mark it down. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. About keeping your promise to yourself. 3. Celebrate your effort. Don't wait for the outcome to feel proud. Feel proud because you showed up, because you honored your path, because you acted with intention, even in the smallest of ways. Now, this idea of doing what little you can might sound too soft in a world that demands constant productivity. But that's only if you're looking through the lens of hustle culture. From the Stoic lens, this is fierce discipline. It takes courage to focus on the present when the future feels uncertain. It takes strength to keep going when progress is slow. It takes wisdom to understand that true power lies in your next step, not in some imagined finish line. You don't have to build Rome in a day, but you can lay a single brick, and then another, and then another. Over time, those bricks become a foundation. That foundation becomes a structure. That structure becomes your life. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need to start small. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or discouraged, I want you to remember this. Do what little you can, and let that be enough. Let that be your strength. Let that be your rebellion against the noise. Let that be your quiet, powerful path to transformation. Because when you commit to small, meaningful actions, you begin to live differently. You stop chasing. You start becoming. You start moving through life with more purpose, more presence, more peace. And before you know it, the life you once dreamed of, the character you once admired, becomes who you are. Not because of one grand moment, but because of 1,000 small ones. 8. Redefining success the Stoic way. What comes to mind when you hear the word success? Is it wealth? Status? That dream car or corner office? Maybe it's a certain number in your bank account, or how many followers you have, or how people talk about you when you're not around. That's how the world tends to define success. Loud, visible, often flashy. But the Stoics? They had a completely different take. One that's not just refreshing, but life-changing. To the Stoics, success wasn't about what you had, it was about who you were. Let that sink in. Success wasn't measured by the size of your house or the title on your resume. It was measured by the strength of your character. By your ability to live according to reason, to act with virtue, to stay true to your values no matter the chaos around you. And in a world obsessed with outcomes, that kind of thinking is revolutionary. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In other words, you're not successful because you have more. You're successful when you need less, because your sense of peace comes from within. Marcus Aurelius, ruling the most powerful empire in the world, wrote in his personal journal, not about conquest or riches, but about humility, patience, and doing the right thing when no one's watching. That's Stoic success. So what does this mean for you and me? It means we get to rewrite the rules. We get to define success in a way that actually serves us, not stresses us, not keeps us constantly chasing, comparing, or feeling like we're never enough. Because here's the truth, external achievements are fragile. They can be taken from you in a moment. Jobs disappear. Markets crash. Looks fade. Fame flickers. But who you become, that's yours forever. Your honesty, your courage, your self-discipline, your kindness. These are the real trophies. These are the qualities that no one can take from you. And they're available to you right now, not someday in the future when everything lines up. That's the heart of Stoic success. It's internal, it's intentional, and it's immediate. So how do you start shifting your mindset toward this deeper, more sustainable version of success? Here are a few steps you can practice daily. 1. Identify your core values. What do you want your life to stand for? What matters to you when the noise fades and the spotlight's off? Write it down. Let it guide your decisions. 2. Measure your days differently. At the end of the day, instead of asking, "Did I get ahead?" ask, "Did I act with integrity? Did I keep my word? Did I make someone's life better?" 3. Detach from applause. It's great to be recognized, but that can't be the fuel for your self-worth. Do the right thing even if no one claps. Especially if no one claps. Let go of the scoreboard. Stop tracking your life by numbers, followers, dollars, metrics. Instead, track by alignment. Are you becoming more of who you truly want to be? Because here's the paradox. When you start focusing on this internal definition of success, you often achieve more externally too. But because you're not wasting energy trying to be someone you're not. You're not chasing validation. You're just showing up fully, authentically, powerfully. And people notice that. They trust that. They follow that. But even if they didn't, you'd still be winning. Because you'd know that your life is built on something solid. Something unshakable. Something that doesn't break when the world gets hard. And that's what Stoicism gives you. Gives you back your power. It reminds you that you don't need the world to agree that you're successful. You just need to live in agreement with yourself, with your values, your principles, your truth. So what happens when you start living this way? You stop chasing and start creating. You stop comparing and start becoming. You stop performing and start aligning. And gradually the anxiety fades. The self-doubt quiets. The need to prove or impress dissolves. In its place, there's peace, clarity, strength. You begin to live not for applause, but for impact. Not for attention, but for integrity. Not for hype, but for harmony. And that kind of life? That's what true success looks like. Not just in Stoic terms, but in human terms. Because deep down, that's what we all want. Not just to be seen, but to be whole. To feel proud of how we show up. To lay our heads on the pillow at night and know, today, I lived in alignment with what matters most. So if you've been measuring your worth by numbers, timelines, or someone else's idea of success, let this be your permission to stop. Redefine it. Reclaim it. Make success personal. And let every step forward, no matter how small, be a step toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. That's Stoicism. That's strength. That's success. 9. Freedom from approval. Living beyond the need to be liked. Let's talk about one of the most invisible chains we wear, the need for approval. Whether we realize it or not, many of our choices, what we say, what we wear, what we post, what we pursue, are shaped by one question quietly lurking in the background. What will people think? Now, it's human to want to be liked. It's natural to seek connection, respect, and even admiration. But when your self-worth becomes dependent on other people's approval, you give up something precious, your freedom. And the Stoics were crystal clear on this. Living a good life means living from your own internal compass, not someone else's applause. Seneca put it bluntly, what difference does it make how many people you please, if you are not pleasing yourself? And that's the heart of this lesson. You cannot build a meaningful life while constantly editing yourself to keep others comfortable. So what happens when you stop trying to be liked? You get honest. You get real. You become someone who speaks truth even when it's unpopular, who walks their path even when it's lonely, who makes decisions based on virtue, not vanity. That's the Stoic path. Not one of arrogance, but one of integrity. But here's the thing. Breaking free from the need for approval doesn't happen overnight. We've all been conditioned, through school, family, media, to crave validation, to fear rejection, to avoid standing out too much or speaking up too boldly. So we play it safe. We stay quiet. We fit in. And slowly, we begin to forget who we really are. But the Stoics invite us to wake up. They remind us that your life is yours, not theirs. And it's far too short, far too sacred, to live in the shadow of other people's expectations. So let's talk about how to reclaim your power and live beyond the need to be liked. Step 1. Know your values. If you don't define what matters to you, the world will do it for you. You'll bounce from one opinion to the next, one trend to another, always chasing approval and never finding peace. So take time to reflect. What do you stand for? What kind of person do you want to be? What do you want your life to reflect, regardless of how others respond? Once you get clear on that, you've got your anchor. You've got something solid to return to when doubt or criticism shows up. Step 2. Recognize the cost of approval seeking. Most people never stop to count the cost. But here's the truth. Every time you act just to please someone, you trade a little piece of your authenticity. Every time you silence yourself out of fear, you give up your voice. Every time you abandon your values to avoid judgment, you abandon yourself. And over time, that adds up. You become a version of yourself that looks great on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. So the next time you're tempted to twist yourself into a shape that someone else approves of, ask, what's this going to cost me? If the price is your peace, your truth, or your integrity, it's too high. Step 3. Practice being misunderstood. This one's uncomfortable, but powerful. Because if you're living honestly, there will be times when people don't get it. When they question you, mock you, or just walk away. Let them. That's not cruelty, it's clarity. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey. And that's okay. Your job isn't to be understood by everyone. It's to be true to yourself. And the more you practice this, the easier it gets. The fear shrinks. Your confidence grows. You realize that you're still standing, that your worth didn't vanish just because someone didn't clap. Step 4. Surround yourself with truth tellers. This isn't about isolating yourself. It's about choosing people who value your growth more than your performance. People who don't just tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Because real connection isn't built on pretending, it's built on presence. And when you show up as your full self, without apology, you create space for others to do the same. That's real freedom. That's real strength. You stop living to impress. You start living to express. You stop chasing applause. You start chasing alignment. And here's the beautiful irony. The less you need to be liked, the more respect you earn. The more authentic your relationships become. The more magnetic your presence is. Because people are drawn to truth, to confidence, to someone who knows who they are and walks their path with grace and grit. So if you're tired of shrinking yourself, second-guessing yourself, or editing yourself just to keep the peace, here's your invitation. Let go. Let go of the need to be liked. Let go of the fear of judgment. Let go of the idea that everyone has to approve of your path. Instead, step into your truth. Speak it. Live it. Own it. Not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. Because at the end of the day, you weren't put here to blend in. You weren't born to be a mirror for other people's expectations. You were born to be a light, to shine as your most honest, whole, and courageous self. That's what the Stoics understood. That's what you're capable of. And that's the life waiting for you on the other side of approval. 10. The power of saying no, honoring your values through boundaries. Let's face it, saying no isn't easy. Whether it's a friend asking for a favor, a coworker piling more onto your plate, or a tempting opportunity that just doesn't align with your goals, saying no can feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it even feels wrong. We're taught to be agreeable, to help, to show up, and there's nothing wrong with generosity. But when saying yes to others becomes a habit of saying no to yourself, something needs to change. This is where the Stoics offer us a deeply practical and empowering mindset. Your life is only as focused as your ability to protect your energy. Think about it. Your time, your attention, your emotional bandwidth. These are limited resources. You can't do it all. You can't be everywhere. You can't please everyone. And more importantly, you weren't meant to. The Stoics believed in living according to nature. And part of that means recognizing your limits, understanding what's yours to carry and what's not. It means knowing your priorities, setting clear boundaries, and honoring your values, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Seneca said, "If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person." And sometimes, being that person means having the courage to say no. So let's get practical. Why is it so hard to say no in the first place? A lot of it comes down to fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of being disliked. Fear of missing out. But the truth is, every yes that doesn't align with your core values is a quiet betrayal of yourself. Every time you say yes out of guilt or obligation, you're drifting further from your true path. And over time, that drift creates resentment. Confusion. You're doing all the right things, but they don't feel right. Because they're not your things. They're someone else's priorities, running your life. The Stoics invite us to step back and ask, what do I actually want to give my life to? What truly deserves my energy, my focus, my presence? Because once you get clear on that, saying no isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's an act of alignment, a way of showing up fully where it matters most. So how can you start practicing the art of saying no, Stoic style? Here are some timeless, grounded steps. 1. Get crystal clear on your purpose. If you don't know what matters most to you, everything will seem important. And when everything's important, nothing truly gets your best effort. Start by defining your North Star, your values, your priorities, your mission. When you're anchored in that, it becomes a filter for your decisions. 2. Pause before you answer. You don't owe anyone an instant reply. Create space between the request and your response. Ask yourself, does this align with my path? Is this a true yes or a fear-based yes? That little pause can change everything. 3. Practice graceful refusals. Saying no doesn't mean being rude or cold. You can be firm and kind at the same time. Try phrases like, "Thanks for thinking of me, but I have to pass." "I really appreciate the offer, but that's not something I can commit to right now. That doesn't align with my current priorities, but I'm honored you asked." You don't need to justify. You don't need to over-explain. A simple, clear no is often the most respectful response. Expect discomfort and do it anyway. It's okay to feel a little awkward. That's normal. But remember, avoiding temporary discomfort often leads to long-term misalignment. And if someone truly respects you, they'll respect your boundaries. If they don't, that's useful information. 5. Celebrate your integrity. Every time you say no to something misaligned, you're saying yes to something deeper. Your peace, your vision, your authenticity. That deserves acknowledgement. Every aligned no is a small act of mastery. Here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become with saying no, the more powerful your yes becomes. Because it's no longer diluted. It's no longer coming from guilt, people-pleasing, or obligation. It's coming from clarity, purpose, and presence. And that kind of yes? It carries weight. It creates impact. And if you've ever felt like your life is spinning out of control, like you're always busy but rarely fulfilled, It might be time to look at your boundaries. Are you saying yes out of alignment? Are you scattering your energy trying to be everything to everyone? Are you afraid to disappoint, but quietly disappointing yourself in the process? These are hard questions, but they're also the doorway to freedom. The Stoics understood that true power doesn't come from having control over others. It comes from having control over yourself, your choices, your time, your energy. And saying no is one of the simplest, most powerful ways to reclaim that control. It's how you protect your focus, how you guard your peace, how you build a life that reflects not what the world demands, but what your soul truly values. So today, give yourself permission. Permission to be clear. Permission to be intentional. Permission to say no, with love, with firmness, with grace. Because every time you do, you're not closing a door, you're opening one. A door to your own power, your own priorities, your own path. And that's a door worth walking through. 11. Letting go with indifference, mastering the art of inner peace. One of the most misunderstood ideas in Stoicism is indifference. At first glance, it might sound cold, like not caring about anything at all. But that's not what the Stoics meant. To them, indifference wasn't about apathy, it was about clarity. It was about recognizing the difference between what you can control and what you can't, and freeing yourself from the emotional chaos that comes with clinging to the uncontrollable. Let's unpack this together, because this idea could change how you experience stress, failure, rejection, and even success. The Stoics taught that life is full of externals, things outside of our control. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions, whether or not someone texts you back, whether or not your hard work gets recognized, whether or not life unfolds the way you planned. And every time we get emotionally entangled in these externals, we suffer. Not because life is unfair, but because we've placed our peace in the hands of something we were never meant to control. So the Stoic solution? Let it go with indifference. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. Your inner state, your virtue, your reason, your values. That's where your power lives. Epictetus said it best, some things are up to us and some are not. And your entire quality of life depends on how well you make that distinction. So what does this look like in the real world? Let's say you apply for a promotion. You do your best. You stay late. You contribute. And in the end, they choose someone else. The non-Stoic reaction? Anger, resentment, self-doubt. But the Stoic response? Graceful indifference. Not because you didn't care, but because you did your part. You showed up with integrity. The outcome wasn't yours to control. Your actions were. And that's enough. This mindset doesn't just protect your peace, it sharpens your focus. Because when you stop wasting energy trying to force things, you start channeling that energy into what you can influence. Your attitude, your decisions, your next step. You stop spiraling over things gone wrong. And you start moving forward, clear, calm, collected. Now, let's be honest, this kind of detachment isn't easy. Especially in a world that tells us to constantly worry about outcomes, seek approval, and fight for control. But the Stoics weren't interested in what was easy. They were interested in what was true, what was liberating, what was wise. And this practice of letting go with indifference is one of the most liberating habits you'll ever build. So how do we cultivate it? 1. Start with mindfulness. Pay attention to when you're getting pulled into something outside your control. A rude comment, a missed opportunity, someone else's success. Just notice, without judgment. 2. Ask the Stoic question, is this up to me? If the answer is no, release it. Gently. Refocus. Bring your attention back to what is up to you. Your character, your actions, your response. 3. Reframe the situation. Instead of saying, "This shouldn't have happened." Say, "This happened, now how do I want to respond?" This puts you back in the driver's seat. It shifts you from reactive to reflective. Practice on small things. Traffic, delays, minor disagreements. These are perfect training grounds. Every time you let go instead of lashing out, you build your strength. You train your mind. 5. Anchor yourself in virtue. Let your actions be rooted in what's right, not in what gets rewarded. Do the kind thing. Make the honest choice. Keep your word. Not because of how others respond, but because that's who you are. This kind of practice creates something rare. A stable mind in an unstable world. Imagine how much lighter you'd feel if you stopped needing things to go a certain way in order to feel okay. Imagine how much more energy you'd have if you weren't constantly trying to control the uncontrollable. Imagine how much more peace you'd experience if your happiness wasn't tied to outcomes, opinions, or perfect circumstances. That's the gift of Stoic indifference. And it's not about turning your back on life. It's about turning your attention toward what matters most. You still care. You still love. You still show up fully. But you stop gripping. You stop grasping. You stop attaching your self-worth to things that were never built to hold it. And in doing so, you create space. Space for calm. Space for focus. Space for joy that isn't dependent on how life unfolds, but how you choose to respond. So the next time life throws you something unexpected, a delay, a disappointment, a detour, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this up to me? And if it's not, let it go. Let it pass like weather. Let it drift like clouds. Return to what is yours, your integrity, your attention, your intention. Because that's where peace lives. That's where freedom lives. That's where the Stoic lives, not in indifference to life, but in mastery of self. 12. The Stoic life. Living each day with purpose, presence, and peace. As we reach the end of this journey together, let's take a step back and ask one simple but powerful question. What does it actually mean to live a Stoic life? Is it about quoting ancient philosophers? Memorizing maxims? Practicing perfect self-control? Not really. At its core, Stoicism is about how you live, day to day, moment to moment. It's about how you choose to show up in the world. How you carry yourself through hardship. How you respond to success. How you treat others. How you treat yourself. It's not a label, it's a way of being. It's about presence over distraction. Character over convenience. Purpose over pressure. A Stoic life isn't about being rigid or emotionless. It's about being fully alive, aware of your values, connected to your choices, and resilient in the face of chaos. Because life will be chaotic. We know that. There will be moments that shake you, break you, surprise you. Moments when the world doesn't make sense, when people disappoint you, when your plans fall apart. But the Stoic doesn't crumble in these moments. The Stoic doesn't run from them either. The Stoic breathes, observes, thinks clearly, acts deliberately, and in doing so, transforms even the harshest trial into a stepping stone for growth. That's the power of this philosophy, not just in theory but in practice. So what does living a Stoic life actually look like? Let's bring it down to earth. 1. You begin your day with intention. You don't rush into the noise. You take a moment to ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? What virtues do I want to practice? What is in my control, and what isn't? This simple practice, often called morning reflection, sets the tone. It reminds you that life isn't something happening to you, it's something you're participating in. 2. You face challenges as training, not punishment. Obstacles no longer derail you. They become your workout, your classroom, your mirror. You ask, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? You start to see pain not as a problem to avoid, but as a passage to strength. 3. You live in alignment with your values. When you say something, you mean it. When you commit, you follow through. You don't chase status, you chase virtue. And that gives your life a rare sense of clarity and confidence. Because when your inner life and your outer actions align, there's no conflict, no confusion, no pretending, just peace. For you pause before reacting. You don't let your emotions drive the car. You feel them, acknowledge them, but act from a deeper place. From reason, from virtue, from wisdom. This gives you power, real power. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to master yourself. 5. You end each day with reflection, not regret. At night you ask, did I act with courage? Was I kind? Where did I fall short? And how can I improve tomorrow? This isn't about self-punishment. It's about self-honesty, self-mastery. It's how you build the kind of character that can stand firm when everything else shakes. This is what the Stoic life looks like. Not perfect, but intentional. Not flashy, but rooted. Not driven by fear or ego, but guided by purpose. And here's the secret. Anyone can live this way. You don't need to be a philosopher or a Roman emperor. You just need a willingness to take responsibility for your life. A willingness to stop blaming and start building. To stop reacting and start reflecting. You just need to care more about being true than being liked. More about living well than living easy. And yes, it takes courage. It takes commitment. It takes waking up again and again to the person you're becoming. But it's worth it, because this way of life, it frees you. It frees you from chasing what doesn't matter, from obsessing over what you can't control, from wasting your life on distraction, approval, and fear. And in its place, it gives you something priceless: clarity, presence, meaning. So if you've ever felt lost, scattered, or stuck, if you've ever wondered how to live with more depth, more direction, more peace, Stoicism has been waiting for you all along. It's not just a philosophy. It's a practice, a path, a powerful reminder that no matter what happens around you, you still get to choose who you are. You still get to choose how you respond. You still get to lead your life with strength, stillness, and grace. So, as we close this chapter together, I invite you to do something simple, but transformative. Don't try to change your entire life overnight. Just start where you are. Pick one virtue, one challenge, one practice, and live it fully, sincerely, consistently. That's the Stoic way. Not perfection, but progress. Not control, but character. Not outcomes, but alignment. Let's walk this path together. One mindful breath, one wise choice, one courageous act at a time. And remember, the life you've been seeking isn't out there in some distant future. It's right here, in your next thought, your next word, your next step. Let it be a good one. Thank you for being here, for showing up, for seeking wisdom in a world full of noise. If this journey moved you, taught you, or reminded you of your own strength, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Reflect on it. Live it. Because the world doesn't just need more opinions. It needs more people living with purpose. And that person could be you.